Away in a manger, no crib for his bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. A classic Christmas carol sung every year by millions of children with tea towels on their heads and adults dimly lit by candlelight. It tells the familiar story of a newborn baby Jesus lying in a livestock food trough beneath glittering stars, gently awoken by mooing cows. But if we look closer at some of the words as we sing, they tell a troubling story. Thankfully, I think they're not true, but let's consider if they were. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. Hang on a minute. Jesus didn't cry? Now, as a parent myself, I know very well that a baby crying can be trying. But when we're not desperate for just a few more minutes sleep, we know that a baby's crying is not a bad thing, it's normal, it's healthy, it's how they communicate what they need. I'm sure you've seen the scene on TV. We're in a hospital room, the baby has finally been born, and silence. The camera cuts between the nervous faces of the baby's parents and the midwife doing rapid, skillful midwifey things with the baby. And then, wah! Relief all round. The baby is a live and healthy newborn human. If this carol is true, then Jesus isn't really quite a human. Certain parts of what it is to be human, he isn't, which would mean he doesn't really know what it's like to be like you or like me. But the truth is that in Jesus, God became an actual, real human. So he does know what it's like to be you. He's experienced it. In fact, Jesus is the most human-y human ever. He is more human than we are, not less. Just read the accounts of Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke or John in the Bible to see how human Jesus is. He cries, he laughs, he struggles, he gets tired, he eats, he gets the drinks in, he loves, he jokes, he gets so angry he flips tables. Any version of Christianity that leads to people becoming less richly involved in being full, rounded, joyful, deep, laughing, crying humans isn't really like Jesus at all. Despite what the carol claims, Jesus did cry. The grumpy neighbours in the stable next door could hear it through the walls. Because Jesus was born as an actual human, like you and me. Then there's the last lines of the carol, and fit us for heaven to live with thee there. Heaven is where Jesus is right now. It's God's throne room of the universe. 2,000-ish years ago, a month or so after Jesus died and rose back to life, he ascended to heaven. That's where he is now. But, Jesus promised, he is in our future going to come back from heaven to the earth, to make everything on and about the earth new again and right and unmessed up and unbroken. He's actually going to bring heaven and earth together so that God and his people will live actually together, not in a non-physical floaty heaven, but on a real, lumpy earth. Where has God ever said in the Bible that Jesus will take believers in him away to live in heaven forever? He hasn't. But the Bible talks lots about Jesus coming back to earth and bringing his kingly rule here, and believers being part of that. Heaven is not the destiny of people. Heaven is not the place Jesus wants us to long to go to. He teaches us to pray for God's kingdom to come about on earth, just as it already is in heaven. Jesus' birth in that stable, his life, his death on a cross, were to make it possible for us to be raised to new life, like he was on the third day, so we would be fit not just for heaven, but for eternal, heavenly, earthly life with God. Don't long for Jesus to take you away from this earth. Long for Jesus to return to this earth. When he does, he'll end pain and sadness and death and illness and tears. But he's never said he's going to end food and fun and Scrabble and friendship and music and running and playing and beer and hugs and enjoyable work and climbing and tea and laughing and cricket and cat videos. And, understood like that, we can begin to be part of bringing God's kingdom to the earth right now. It can't yet be to the same full extent, but it can be the same in nature. Acting as the caretakers, leaders, carers of creation we were created to be, bringing all the things of this world and our lives under the wise, loving leadership of Jesus. That's way better than just getting fitted out and waiting to be taken away to some other place called heaven. Look, I love Christmas carols, and I think creative license is fine in how we retell this amazing story. Did you know there's no mention of a donkey carrying Mary in the Bible? But I still loved seeing my 4-year-old son dressed as a donkey in his nursery nativity play, clopping coconuts as he walked in circles leading 2 other preschoolers with tea towels on their heads. That's fun, and it doesn't have any bearing on the truth of the story. But we want to ensure that in the parts that matter, we get the story right. Christianity is only worthwhile and valuable and pointful if it's actually true. The glory of Christmas is that the God who has always been became an actual, vulnerable human baby so that you and me can be with him in the renewed, perfected creation he is bringing about. Let's not miss out on the fullness of the truth in the gospel by accepting everything in a certain wonky carol as gospel truth.